Fears of a recession have cast a shadow over Wall Street for the last year, thanks to aggressive action by the Fed to cool down red-hot inflation rates. But stronger than expected economic data suggests that a slowdown might not happen, and experts now think the economy may be headed toward a soft landing. On this IBD Explains, we ask, what would an economic soft landing mean for investors?
And joining me to help break things down is IBD news editor Ed Carson. So, Ed, where are we at with inflation and what would a soft landing mean for investors?
Well, inflation has been trending lower. It's still well above what we would traditionally be saying the 2% ceiling is what we want. We're still well above that, especially some of the underlying trends, but it's improving. A soft landing would be a situation where the Fed can bring down inflation and maybe let go and let inflation continuing to cool without pushing the economy into a recession. It's difficult. It's sort of like, and especially you have to consider is that the Fed has to let go, and these rate hikes still have an impact 6 months, 12 years, 12 months, down the road. So you're really just sort of hoping, like aiming at a target that isn't there, like a quarterback throwing to the target before the receiver is even turned.
All eyes have been on the Fed. And if we do get a soft landing, is the Fed done with interest rate hikes or what happens in that scenario?
Well, the Fed may be done, or maybe they'll just do one more, depending on things. They're very data dependent at this point. Still looking to see, is inflation coming down enough? If growth is really strong, they might be a little more worried about inflation, and they might also think, you know what, we can get away with it. Like we can afford to do it, and it won't push us over the edge. So it's really delicate because it's like you go a little stronger, and you have a hard landing. Don't go strong enough from the Fed's perspective, and inflation picks up again, and then you have to then maybe you do have to engineer a hard landing. So it's a really delicate balance that the Fed is trying to do. It could be that we'll see rate cuts in next year, but again, it's really hard to project more than a meeting or two out. I think that when anybody tries to go too far out, is realize their forecasts are usually way off pace.
No, and when we've seen any news coming out about rate hikes or any sort of Fed comments, we've seen that reflected in market volatility. So if we get this soft landing, does that become less of a concern for investors?
It does and it doesn't. One of the issues is that going into it is that, like, every day we'll get economic data, and not everything is going to be perfect. Okay, not everything is going to say scream soft landing. It may overall say that, but one day we'll get a strong, economic report, and another one we'll get, a weak one. Then we'll get strong inflation, we'll get weak inflation, and so each one of those things may. Well, wait a second, it wasn't supposed to be like that. The market could decide to be volatile and like swing on it. Or it could say, it's just another report, no big deal. We're trending while there. So probably as we get well into a soft landing, we really feel like the inflation is down and maybe growth is even starting to pick up. Then maybe volatility comes down. But you can imagine markets being volatile just because you could quickly go from a very nice scenario to a bad scenario on either end. So, if investors want to be jumpy, they can be jumpy.
No, and if I am an investor and I'm looking at this, how can I tell, or what are some of the things that you would key on to see if this soft landing is coming in more of a crash, as you say?
I mean, you can look and see how the market is reacting, because obviously the market is trying to digest that. And, just look, inflation has been trending down. It seems to be coming down. You look at some of these economic reports, you don't have to be poring over the details, but it's like, some sectors are looking weaker than others, but the economy seems to be holding up reasonably well. And you can look at some of those reports and just be paying attention and go, yeah, it actually looks like a soft landing. A lot of Wall Street firms that were calling for a recession earlier this year, they're saying, doesn't look like it's going to happen, or at least certainly not in 2023. So, things are going pretty well. But, again, that can change just in a few weeks, few months. We might have a very different scenario ahead.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for your insights today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.